We're live, Rick.
Okay, we're live.
All right. Just want to welcome everyone back to our regular sessions of our city council meetings. We were on summer recess. Now we are officially back on our regular first and third Wednesday schedule. So we trust that everyone had a pretty safe, it was a different summer. We trust everyone had a safe summer. And again, we just want to welcome you back to the meeting of Youngstown City Council. Councilman Ray, do you have an agenda?
I do, Mr. President.
You ready to go through the agenda?
Yes, I believe we're all ready.
Okay. Under communications and reports, item number 1.
Receive and file,
Item number 2,
receive and file,
3,
receive and file,
4,
receive and file,
5,
receive and file,
6,
receive and file,
7,
permission granted,
8,
permission granted,
under reports, item number 9,
receive and file.
all right. Under communications, number 7 and 8, permission was granted for Tamika Kimbrough as well as Sharon Dixon to speak, but they are unavailable and maybe will be joining us in a future meeting for the record. Under public comments, we do have one public comment, so that will be read for the record. Under resolutions, item number 1,
Suspend and consent,
under ordinances, number 2,
suspend and consent,
3,
suspend and consent,
4,
suspend and consent,
5,
suspend and consent,
6,
suspend and consent,
7,
suspend and consent,
8.
suspend and consent.
I believe this is a request for a separate vote by Councilwoman Turner. Yeah,
Okay.
so suspended consent with a separate vote on 8.
Okay.
Number 9,
Suspend and consent,
10,
suspend and consent,
11,
suspend and consent,
12,
move to the safety committee,
13,
suspend and consent,
14,
suspend and consent,
15,
suspend and consent,
16,
suspend and consent,
17.
suspend and consent.
That's also request of a second vote by Councilwoman Turner. Is that correct? Yes, okay,
A separate vote for item number 17.
correct. And item number 18.
Suspend and consent.
Okay, let's go back from the very beginning just to make sure we're on the same page. Under communications, item 1,
Receive and file,
2,
receive and file,
3,
receive and file,
4,
receive and file,
5,
receive and file,
6,
receive and file,
7,
permission granted,
8.
permission granted,
Under reports, number 9.
receive and file,
Under public comments that will be read aloud during the meeting. Under resolutions, number 1.
suspend and consent,
Under ordinances, number 2,
suspend and consent,
3,
suspend and consent,
4,
suspend and consent,
5,
suspend and consent,
6,
suspend and consent,
7,
suspend and consent,
8,
suspend and consent with a separate vote,
9,
suspend and consent,
10,
suspend and consent,
11,
suspend and consent,
12,
move to the safety committee,
13,
suspend and consent,
14,
suspend and consent,
15,
Suspend the consent.
16,
Suspend the consent.
17,
Suspend the consent with a separate vote.
and 18.
Suspend the consent.
Okay. All right, are you guys ready to go directly into the meeting?
I believe so.
All right. Time is 5:36. This meeting on Wednesday, September 16th, 2020 is now called to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Adamzat,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Hughes,
Here.
McNally,
Here.
Oliver,
Here.
Ray,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
and Kitchen.
Here. All right, Mr. Ray, is there a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes for the meetings on June 17th, June 19th, July 29th, August 4th, and August 26th, 2020, and approve the journal?
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes for the following meetings: June 17th, June 19th, July 29th, August 4th, and August 26th of 2020, and approve the journal.
Second.
Motion carries. Under communications and reports, item number 1, Mr. Ray.
Mr. President, I move under communication reports that items 1 through 9 be received and filed and permission granted.
Second.
All right, motion carries. Under public comments, we do have one public comment. Clerk, if you would read that for the record, please.
We have a public comment from Mr. and Mrs. Minor. They are residents in the 6th Ward on Pinehurst Avenue. They submitted a complaint saying that on August 19th, 2020, at approximately 4 a.m., they were awakened by the sound of water. They quickly realized that it was not raining outside. The sound was coming from within our home. Upon searching the house and basement, we discovered the sound of water was coming from our basement. There was 4 feet of standing water, sewage, and mud in our basement and engulfing our washer, dryer, deep freezer, furnace, and personal items of sentimental value. We immediately contacted our insurance company of over 20 years to report the flooding. Our insurance company had refused to pay for the flood damages because it was determined to be caused by the city of Youngstown while they were working on a water line a couple streets away. The estimated repair cost for the furnace is $900. The cleanup bill from ServPro is $10,666.49. Additionally, we had to purchase a new freezer and a washer and dryer for $1,602.32 for a total of $13,168.81 worth of damages that have resulted from the flood created by the city of Youngstown's Public Works. We are lifelong residents of the city and have resided at 29 Pinehurst for over 20 years. At this point, we do not know what else to do. We really need your assistance in assuring that we are reimbursed for our expenses. Submitted by Mr. and Mrs. Minor.
All right. Thank you very much for that public comment. Under resolutions, Councilman Ray.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules of
Oh, I'm
council.
sorry. The clerk needs to read the caption for the resolution. I'm sorry.
Resolution accepting the amount and rates determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Councilman Ray.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules of council and place resolution 1 before council for passage pursuant to the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call on the suspension.
Adamzat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the suspension.
The rules of council have been suspended. Are there any questions or remarks? Roll call on the passage.
Adamsat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the passage.
Resolution number 1 has been passed. Under ordinances, number 2,
Authorizing the Board of Control of the City of Youngstown to approve payment not to exceed $60,000 to Valley Ford Truck Incorporated.
Councilman Ray.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules of council and place ordinance numbers 2 through 7, 9 through 16, and 18 before council for passage pursuant to the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call on the suspension.
Adamsat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the suspension.
The rules of council have been suspended. Are there any further questions or remarks? Roll call on the passage.
Adamsat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the passage.
Ordinances 2 through 7, 9 through 16, and ordinance 18 have all been passed.
Excuse me, Mr. President.
I'm sorry. yes.
Number 12 should not have been included in that motion, right?
Oh, yeah, that's moved to safety committee. Thank you, clerk. So that's ordinances 2 through 7, 9 through 11, 13 through 16, and 18 have all been passed. Thank you. Under ordinances number 8.
Authorizing the Board of Control of the City of Youngstown to approve a blanket purchase order in an amount not to exceed $45,000 for waste management. This company is used for monthly roll-off dumpster pickup.
Councilman Ray.
Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules of council and place item number 8 before council for passage pursuant to the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call on the suspension.
Adamsat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the suspension.
The rules of council have been suspended. Are there any questions or remarks?
Yes. I
Councilwoman
have a
Turner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is Mike Durkin with us?
Yes,
Mike
I'm here.
Dirk? Okay.
Perfect. I do have a question. So going over my notes from Monday's finance meeting, you stated that you've already it got to that 25,000 that's authorized through BOC. Are you asking for this 45,000 and saying that you're going to spend another 45,000 in the next 4 months, or are you saying you just need another 20,000 for the remainder of the year?
That the latter is correct. We will only need the 45,000 total for the year. We will not need
Okay,
an
so-
additional 45, just an additional 20.
Just an additional 20.
Right. We
So-
just went over the $25,000 mark. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much for that point of clarity.
Yep.
With that being said, I guess my next question is for the law department. Does this ordinance read correctly in saying that it's a blanket purchase order for 45,000?
Is Jeff Limbian on the line or someone from the law department? Is there anyone from the law department on the phone? Jeff Limbian, are you there? I see he's on the phone unmuted. I don't know if he's, can you hear me, Jeff? He just muted himself.
Through the chair, I will address this as the finance director.
Okay.
It has been past practice that anytime Board of Control believes that there is going to be expenditures exceeding that threshold, we then take it to council. And it's always been the case that council identifies legislation will identify what council is giving us the authority to expend up to. So given that we've already spent close up to 25, you are in essence passing this ordinance to give us the authority to expend those additional funds up to 45,000. If you identify it as 20, you are now in essence telling us that we can spend 20. Well, we have the authority under Board of Control to go through what we currently have spent. So that is why you set the threshold at the amount that we're asking you to expend up to.
I think her question was on how the language being drafted. To your point, Board of Control already approved 25. Mr. Durkin said they only need an additional 20 for a total of 45 for the year. Then what her question is, should the legislation say an amount not to exceed 20 because you've already gone through the 25?
No, through the chair. You're giving, and see, it's kind of like you're giving us the authority to expend more. You have, because of that threshold being exceeded, you have to in essence give us the authority for all of it, because if we don't create separate POs for a 25 and a 20. We will create a PO for all 45, and we will reference the ordinance that council gave us the authority to expend up to that amount.
Well, what was the purpose of the Board of Control action then?
Because we don't know how much this is going to cost us each year. So in essence, are we to come to council every time we're going to actually enter and to do some work, unknowing how much we're going to need? No, we have the authority to spend up to an amount through BOC, but once we uncover that we're going to need more, we have to turn to council to ask, can we spend in addition to what BOC has given us the authority, because council has the appropriating authority and we need your permission.
Councilwoman Turner, does that answer your questions?
Actually, no. So I just want to, I guess I need a little more clarity. So what BOC spends and what we spend, you're saying that it's kind of all together. So if he asked for 25,000, he's spent that 25,000. And because he's spending more, we're going to appropriate the 25 that he spent with you and the additional 20 on this ordinance in the future. You've already spent 25 of this money. So half the money's already been spent. It's just weird. Normally you come to us before the money's spent, and now you're coming after you spent half the money. I don't know. I'm not reconciling that clearly.
To the chair, this is going around in circles. You give us the authority to expend funds up to for particular levels that we are asking you for that permission.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want us going past it, that's why we have to come to you. But we ultimately have to tell you what we're spending with that one vendor. If we tell you that we're going to asking you to spend 20 more, so what are you giving us the authority to spend $20,000? No, you're giving us the authority to spend all 45 because it's with one vendor for one particular type of work. That is why we have to come back to you and ask you for permission.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Just to be clear, do you want to go around the circle one more time? You're asking for the permission now because with this one particular vendor, you've spent the 25,000 and we need to spend an additional 20 for the remainder of the year. So this ordinance just gets us to the end of the year. Mike is only going to spend 20 more thousand thereabouts with waste management for these roll-offs. Correct?
Through the chair, that is exactly what he said.
Councilman
I'm
Ray?
sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that's not exactly what he said. So this is why I have this question now, and I have the right to have this question now. Finance Director. Thank you.
Councilman Ray?
I mean, just to state it another way, my understanding of the explanation was the Board of Control issues an original PO for 25,000. They can't spend, so they just extend the PO's dollar amount by the legislation to 45 is the way I think I understood that explanation.
Okay, so at the end of the year, if you want to look at this line item, it should say 45,000 or less has been spent for the total year, in essence, is what they're saying, Councilwoman Turner. So I guess at that time, you can reconcile those numbers with the public record of this meeting. All right, you're on mute, but I read your lips. You're welcome. So the rules of council have been suspended. Any other remarks or comments? Roll call on the passage.
Adamzat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally.
Yeah.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the passage.
Ordinance number 8 has been passed. Ordinance number 12.
Appropriating $1,067,825.44 to organizational code 2102.12.202_5001 for the COPS hiring program grant.
Councilman Ray?
Mr. President, I make a motion that we move item number 12 to the Safety Committee.
Second.
Okay, ordinance number 12 has been moved to the Safety Committee. Under ordinances, item number 17.
Amending ordinance number 20-204 passed by Youngstown City Council on August 4th, 2020, which appropriated and dispersed $3,444,555 to the Community Development 46th Year CDBG grant.
Councilman Ray?
Mr. President, I move that we suspend the rules of council and place item number 17 before council for passage pursuant to the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call on the suspension.
Adamzat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
Yes.
7 yeas for the suspension.
The rules of council have been suspended. Are there any other remarks or questions? Roll call on the passage.
Adamzat,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
McNally,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
and Turner.
No.
6 yeas, 1 nay.
Ordinance number 17 has been passed with a 6-1 vote. Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude our agenda. Our next council meeting will be on Wednesday, October 7th at 5:30 p.m. Are there any additional comments from the first ward?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say to our citizens, dumping is on the rise. I mean, at least in the first ward. So if you guys see any dumping, oftentimes city officials, we don't know about it unless somebody tells us because it's always ducked off somewhere. So if you see couches off from where it shouldn't be, call litter control, which is housed within the health department, and help us, get this dumping problem under, control. I would also say stay safe, stay informed, and that's it. Thank you.
All right, second ward, Councilman Hughes.
I'd like to say to all my constituents and all those citizens and residents of Youngstown to stay safe. I like to give that impression that that's still needed. And I want to comment about this break that we're supposed to be having. I think we had a ton of meetings when we're supposed to be in recession. I don't quite follow that, Is this normal? This is my first year and then my first summer, and I didn't see it. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Councilman Hughes. I'm glad you were working all summer. Third Ward, Councilwoman Turner.
Thank you. Not to belabor the points of staying safe, but also remember that last day to register to vote is October 5th. Make sure that you are registered. And if you know someone that's not registered, get them registered. And of course, fill out your census. It helps us to bring more dollars to the Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Fourth Ward, Councilman Ray.
I want to echo Councilman Oliver's sentiments about the dumping. I've also seen an increase. I don't know if people are bored and thinking it's a good hobby during a pandemic to dump, but you're our eyes and ears out there, constituents. So if you have a Ring doorbell or a camera or something and you see, or if you see the truck, call the police or report it and let us know, because you're our eyes and our ears. And we did have some success with reporting that or and tracking those down. So I think that happens in all of our neighborhoods on a quiet street. People just come and dump, and next thing we know, there's a toilet laying there and some drywall and Lord knows what else. So please help us address that. And again, like everyone else said, stay safe, keep your distance.
All right, thank you. Fifth Ward, Councilwoman McNally.
Thank you, President. I don't have anything pressing at this time.
Thank you. Sixth Ward, Councilwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two items. I want to echo what both Councilman Oliver and Ray said about the dumping. And I want to commend Bob Burks for his litter control attempts. I received a couple of phone calls from Mrs. Rosendary talking about the litter and things that's just like coming up like dandelions. This is your city, folks. Let's work together to keep this place, keep our neighborhood beautiful. That's our job. That's the city's job, but that's also your job. You don't abrogate your responsibility as a citizen of Youngstown to help keep our neighborhoods beautiful. Secondly, I want to welcome to the 6th Ward, the former Chemical Bank. They moved over to the old PNC building. And so I want to welcome them to the 6th Ward. Also, I'm happy to announce that while it's not in the 6th Ward, it's right here against the 6th Ward, welcoming Dunkin' Donuts over here to the Newport and Handles Block Watch area. It's so glad to see a business like a Dunkin' Donuts coming to this area. And hopefully it spurs other businesses to come on here to Youngstown. We would love to have all of you. So welcome, Dunkin', and welcome back to the bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 7th Ward, Councilwoman Adams-Act.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to give my gratitude and thanks to our YPD. Last weekend, there was a shooting over by Wilson Middle School on Gibson, where there was a little league football game taking place. I was somewhat witness to what was occurring. I immediately reached for my phone to call our YPD, and before I even was able to get through to a dispatcher, our YPD was already on scene handling the situation. So I want to thank them for their swift and just how quickly they were able to make it to the scene and get it under control. With that being said, I also want to say to those that were involved how extremely selfish and irresponsible it was to do that. Shootings in general are irresponsible, but specifically that innocent children could have gotten hurt. So shame on those individuals, and hopefully soon the investigation will be over and they will be charged accordingly. But I do want to thank our YPD, so thank you.
Thank you very much. One final note before we adjourn: the public comment that was read in our hearing today will be forwarded to Attorney Limbian, the law director, as well as 6th Ward Councilwoman Anita Davis.
Thank you.
So that concludes our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Second.
thank you. We are adjourned at 6:01 p.m. Have a good evening, everyone.